Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tracy, and if you don't know me, I have a passion for upcycling clothing and I teach sewing on here. I have a very beginner-friendly tutorial and sewing pattern for you guys this week. It's this new mini dress with like the lace trim. The sewing pattern is available on my Etsy shop and I will link it down below. I can't wait to get into it with you guys. But first, VIVAIA was so kind to send me 2 pairs of shoes in exchange for my honest review. I already wore both of them. I just want to give you guys like my honest review about the shoes and the brand. VIVAIA is a sustainable shoe brand and the shoes are made from recycled plastic water bottles. They come in this really nice like sandy colored box. I love the rose gold like logo and it just says step into conscious comfort. I was really excited to receive these shoes because I normally thrift all of my shoes. I want to buy shoes that, you know, are conscious about the environment because that is what I do and what I'm all about. I wasn't too stoked about the mailer that it came in. They could honestly just ship them in a compostable bag, I think would be better. It's really cute that on the box itself, it tells you like how many plastic water bottles were used and this like cute little message. The shoes are just wrapped in tissue paper. Inserts on the shoe are all made from paper, so it's all cardboard and just paper, which is great because everything's recyclable. This was the sandal I got. It's so comfortable. I think my feet are pretty narrow. But these feel great and I kind of like the wide look depending on what I'm wearing. It's kind of nice. Just love that they're made from plastic water bottles. These are like a very casual sandal, which I really like, but I still look presentable when I wear them outside. It comes with a shoe care card, which is amazing. I know a lot of their flats on their websites, those are machine washable, which is awesome. A second pair, which are probably my favorite pair of shoes right now, are the white sneakers. And I just love that they use this 3D knitting technology that is zero waste, which is amazing. You can see they're like fully knitted. I love that they're knitted because they're so flexible. My feet feel so comfortable when I wear these, and I found these to be true to size. Can't wait to style them. They have anything from like casual shoes to more dressy shoes and flats, and they have some heels which are really adorable. So if you're looking for a pair of eco-friendly and sustainable shoes, just check out VIVAIA. They gave me a 15% off code for you guys. It's TBT, so Transformations by Tracy, and I hope you guys enjoy the mini dress tutorial, so let's get into it. I'm taking a dress I thrifted and I'm just starting to cut the armholes and the side seams so I can get the most out of this dress. You can use an existing dress or you can also just get some 4-way stretch fabric. You're going to need about 1.5 yards for this design. And now we can go ahead and just cut out all of our pieces. So on the pattern, you want to just print out all of your pages and line up the corners, don't overlap them, and you just want to tape all your pages together. So I'm going to start by cutting out the center back. The center back piece is cut on the fold, so my existing dress, I just folded the back panel and then I just started pinning and using my rotary cutter to cut it out. On each of the pattern pieces, I indicate how many to cut out and which ones are on the fold. So since I was using a thrifted dress, I didn't have enough fabric, so I kind of had to just take the sleeve pieces and sew them together so I could get like one long piece of fabric, and then I was able to cut out the side slit panel for the front piece. The only piece that needs lining is the front bust panel, so you're just going to cut it on the fold, and this is the lining that was on the original dress I thrifted, so I'm just using that fabric to line it with. Feel free to use your same stretch fabric and just cut out 2, and it doesn't really matter that it's the same print, it's still going to work as a lining. All of your pattern pieces are cut out. Just take your front dress panel, so panel 2 and 3, and I'm just going to go ahead and just overlock that slit seam on both sides. If you don't have an overlock machine, this step isn't necessary because 4-way stretch fabrics don't fray. After overlocking that slit seam on both pieces, I'm just going to start by taking the side front panel, and on the slit seam I'm just taking a piece of lace trim, and it's stretch trim I'm using, so I'm just pinning it in place and just following the curve. I'm not really stretching this trim at all because I want it to be the exact same length as the dress, so I'm just placing the lace right on top and pinning it, and then I'm just taking it to the sewing machine and using a straight stitch on a stitch size 2, so if you keep it small then it will stretch and you don't have any thread breaking. The decorative lace trim is optional. I just really like it because it adds a really nice touch. So now I'm just taking the front pieces and lining up the slit seam. Place right sides together and just pin the top and the bottom first, and then just like ease everything else in together. It should fit perfectly. After pinning that seam in place, I'm just taking my ruler and measuring the length of my slit from the hem. So I'm marking 3.5, but I changed it to 4.5. I wanted a slightly longer slit, so I found 4.5 to be a perfect length. Take it to the sewing machine, and with a straight stitch on a size 2, I'm just sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way until I reach that slit mark. So at that slit mark, I'm just back tacking so we can just have an open slit. To hem the slit, I stitch on the other side of the lace first, and then I pivot and go straight across, and then I fold under the other side to hem it, and then stitch down. I don't know if this is making any sense, but I couldn't find my footage for that, so I stitched on one side and then I went across and then stitched on the other side, and I folded a 1/4 inch seam allowance to hem it. I hope that finish makes sense. So now we can move on to the bust piece. I'm taking the bust pieces, so I'm taking the lining and the main fabric and just pinning those two together at the under bust first. And once I pinned both layers together, I am just doing the same process with the lace trim, and I'm just cutting a piece that's about the same length and just pinning it in place. And then I take it to the sewing machine just to do a stay stitch so it stays in place. We can attach the bust panel to the front dress, so we're just gonna attach everything at the under bust seam. So you're gonna just place right sides together and then just pin, and you're gonna have to stretch the bottom panel because the bust is a little bit longer, so you're just gonna stretch it to fit and just pin everything together and just take it to your sewing machine and overlock that seam. If you don't have an overlock machine, I recommend using a zigzag stitch or an overlock stitch on a regular sewing machine if you have one. And you're just going to press that seam allowance up so the lace trim faces down like that. And now we can just take our back of the dress and just place right sides together and just line up the side seam, so pin from the top to the bottom and then just ease everything else in. After pinning everything in place, you can just take it to your sewing machine. I'm overlocking my side seams, but you can also just do a straight stitch on a small stitch setting, so like a 2, and it should stretch and you should be fine. The dress is almost done, so we just have to finish the necklines and the armhole. So I'm just taking some more of that lace stretch trim and I'm gonna make it like a picot trim. So I'm just lining up the lining to the neckline of the main dress, and I'm just cutting a piece of lace that's about the same length as the neckline, and I'm only gonna stretch it a bit so it follows that curve, and I'm just pinning it in place. I take it to the overlock machine and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you can see the lace is going to be exposed when you fold it under. So I'm just overlocking it, but you don't have to. You can just use your regular sewing machine and do a 1/4 inch stay stitch. And then when you fold the lace up, you can see it clean finishes the edge and it gives you a nice exposed lace at the top. And you're just going to pin it in place and then take it to the sewing machine and do a 3-step zigzag. I repeat this like picot finished edge to the underarms and the back neckline, but for that measurement I just take away 2 inches from that lace trim, so it makes everything really snugged when it's on the body. So just remove 2 inches from that length and then just stretch when you attach it, and then you're just gonna fold it under and do a 3-step zigzag. And I just attach my clothing label before I add my straps, and I already made my little tabs and added the ring, so I already sewed those in at the center back, and they are 3 inches from the center back. And now I'm just taking my elastic, and I like to finish the elastic by burning it because it melts it so the elastic doesn't fray, and then I just loop it through the rings and the slide and make them adjustable. If you need an in-depth tutorial on how to make adjustable straps, I will link one. I take the strap and just pin it at the strap point on the neckline and just do a zigzag stitch on both sides. For the hem, I'm just doing a lettuce edge, and if you need an in-depth tutorial on how to make a lettuce edge with your overlock machine, I will link one, but you can also do this with your regular sewing machine and just a small zigzag stitch and just stretch as you sew.